Awesome. I want you to introduce our lovely panel. Janaki Kumar will moderate the panel, and I think I'll leave the rest of the introductions to you guys. You got the good, lovely handheld mic. I don't know who wants to go first. But...
No, yeah, you can hand it to them. So welcome, thank you guys. How many of you were there for the previous session? Charlie session? Did you enjoy that? Yeah. That was really amazing. I really enjoyed it as well. Great to see that broad perspective about agency and immersive technology. I think that just set a nice high-level tone. Today, what we are going to bring it to SAP. So how can we apply all that amazing knowledge, research into what we do every day, and how can we make our software better? That's what this panel is about. And luckily, we have 4 amazing experts who already have some experience in this topic. So what I plan to do is to ask them some questions and then also leave some time for audience questions. So the reason I mentioned that is that you can keep some questions in your mind to ask these experts. So let's start with David Sonnenschein. He's the VP and of SAP IoT, Startup Accelerator, Digital Assets, and IoT Development. So David, could you briefly introduce yourself a bit more than what I just did and tell us how did you get interested in immersive technologies?
Sure. Okay, so David Sonnenschein, working here in Palo Alto the last 12 years. In terms of, my team is basically engaging startups around the world that are doing interesting, innovative work around IoT. And that could be hardware platforms like robotics I was talking about this morning, or it could be even security and other embedded devices and things like that. Now, in terms of immersive technology and just sort of the trends going there, from my perspective, IoT, first wrapping your head around the Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, is changing the mindset of the designer developer, right? That you have to start thinking about this technology differently. But the part that I'm most concerned about and why I think immersive technologies is so important to this topic is how do you interact with now the Internet of Things as a user, as someone trying to drive or benefit from it. And I just fundamentally don't believe that our kind of standard user interface, our SAP GUI, or obviously the evolution since then, do the job, right? And the easiest example for me, and it's not a terribly immersive one, but the easiest example for me is the difference between looking at a graph from a business KPI perspective versus looking at time series data from sensors. We do not do that well because we've never done that before. And even the folks who do that still are not doing it at the scale that is happening and is required for IoT.
Great, okay, so we have an expert here. I want to also introduce my other panelists. Next is Aaron Williams. He's the lead of the D-Shop, and if you guys are interested, the D-Shop is a super cool makerspace. We will have it open with lots of demos right after this, I believe. Here's Aaron. So Aaron, same question to you. Tell us one sentence about yourself and how did you get interested in immersive technologies, and we introduce it broadly as AR, VR, IoT.
First of all, I'm the lead for the D-Shops for the Americas, so we have multiple ones of these throughout the world. We started in 1993 here in Palo Alto, and as Janaki said, we're over here in Building 9 on the first floor, and it is a makerspace. The idea is to get all of you as SAP employees to come in, try new things, touch things, and realize how this is, the IoT is changing the world, how other types of immersive technologies are changing it, and it doesn't really matter if you're a designer or if you're working on a knob-op screen or something like that. A financial thing is, somehow the data comes out and it needs to interact with the world and stuff like that. But how I got involved is here at SAP about 5 or 6 years ago here. I started up with the first connected cars team here. And what amazed me is taking the idea of immersive technology, having this sensor on 4 wheels that can travel really, really fast, and how much data you can get from it, and how we could imagine not necessarily creating a virtual world or something like that, but how could we just allow you to drive without even thinking about it, without worrying about, since we started off with electric vehicles, how could we make that experience just the same as if you're driving a regular combustion engine, where there's gas stations everywhere. So how can we change that? So we started thinking about how can we just improve this, how can we remove the technology from your world so you don't even realize it.
Great, thank you, Eric. So Amol Deshpande, he's a UX designer in my team, the Design and Co-Innovation Center. He graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a degree in entertainment technology, where he was exposed to AR, VR in the animation industry. So Amol, if you could introduce yourself further and also talk a little bit about your early experiences with AR, VR.
Yeah, as Janaki mentioned, I'm part of a team, so I work as a UX designer, but I did my master's from Carnegie Mellon, and my program was entertainment technology. So we started learning about animation and visual effects in the animation and gaming industry, but there I was exposed. So we had this one class called Building Virtual Worlds, and that was managed by Jesse Shell, who's a very well-known professor in the game design industry. And there we built several virtual worlds, but most of them were done with 3D software packages like Autodesk Maya. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, 3ds Max and all those. And then we used, so at that time Oculus wasn't very popular. We were using old head-mounted displays, and they were really bad. Like, we used to test them out with users. We used to invite people from the university to try it out, and it was a funny situation to watch them. They were sitting down after the experience for 5 to 10 minutes just to get back to reality. So, but there the thing was, we were developing everything in computers, so we had control. We could guide, and everything was animated. It was just CG, so we had control over there. So that was mostly working in the animation industry, and then I joined SAP, and I was really amazed to see that we had these 3D printers here, and we had full access to that. Like, I remember talking to Ingo and asking him, like, hey, do I need to sign up something, or do I need to register? Do I need to be at a certain level in the company to use these 3D printers? And they said, like, no, you can just come and walk in and use whenever you want. And I have so many 3D printing stuff sitting on my table right now. And we are encouraged, like Janaki encourages us to, like, hey, we are in this enterprise world, and we are doing software, we are doing enterprise software, but how can we make use of these new technologies? We have the HoloLens setting, we have 3D printers, we have Amazon Echo, but there aren't many people out there going out and trying it out, and I think we should be able to use these technologies and be at the forefront rather than catching up on these trends.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. I can definitely attest to Amol playing with the 3D printer a lot. I did get phone cases from him and DCC logos, so which I display very proudly. So thank you, Amol. And then we have Manfred, and Manfred leads the Co-Innovation Lab. So Manfred, could you introduce yourself?
Too much of an honor.
Sorry? No?
Too much of an honor. I'm the director at the Co-Innovation Labs, and I'm leading the AR, VR, and immersion things we are doing.
Okay, all right. I'm sure he can lead that. So could you say a little bit about that, and maybe, how did you get interested in this topic?
Okay, yeah. What we are doing there actually came from my first touch point with VR. I used to start at SAP in SAP Research, and used to set up a showroom. At that time, we somehow needed to bring over what we had as results in our research, and we decided to build real showrooms with real touchable things, and this was a great success. But at the other end, people said, well, we have to go to that certain showroom, and well, it's near Walnut, so if we fly over with customers, easy, but how about all the rest? So we thought about how to build an experience like this without actually building the same all over the place, and ending up as a logistics company for things we had there, like washing machines and charging stations and heat pumps and stuff. So that showroom was about future energy. And we thought on how could we do these experiences. And we started with having a room that had a lot of projections on the outside and to build some kind of a mood. But then went on doing things in stereoscopic 3D, and at the end found that we could have the very best results if we build things in a virtual reality environment. And we started this again with doing big immersive screens, so no headset, because some people don't like to wear headsets. We had quite some visitors on sea level, so they even didn't want to wear spectacles or 3D glasses. So yeah, this was actually the touch point, and it all ends up now in having our Helix, as we call it, as a platform for development of AR/VR experiences that shall enable everybody in the company to very easy build AR/VR stuff without actually having to care about Unity and shading and rendering and this stuff.
Great. Okay. So my next question I wanted to ask you, and I can let any of you jump in, is what is the one coolest project that you've done that you'd like to talk about? Coolest project in immersive technology.
Right, I'll go.
Okay, go on.
So coolest, I don't know about coolest, but yeah, recently I was involved in a VR project. So for the Sapphire conference in Florida, we created this 360-degree video. So online wine purchasing experience. So then you go on with the narrator, do the user research, you build a product, you are a part of a team that does the ideation, you go back to the user, you validate, and you jump between different locations. So I'm also demoing this project at the D shop today from 2 to 4:30. Yeah, so you can come check it out. And we just created this project in 2 weeks. And the biggest challenges were the camera, which camera to use. So I can talk about it later. Come meet me at the D shop. Yeah, so yeah,
Any other? That was really amazing. Well, anybody else? Cool project.
So I'm going to go back in time really far. I'm old, so I can do that. So actually the coolest immersive project that I was involved with in my entire career was actually something I worked on the very first thing out of school a million years ago. I worked for Chevron, and Chevron on the oil exploration side. And doing whatever I was doing at Chevron doesn't really matter. But one day I walked by a room that had these huge screens up, and I noticed some geology stuff that seemed kind of interesting because I was a geologist. And come to find out, Chevron had invested tens of millions of dollars in 3D visualization of basically the way in which you find oil is that you have these seismic, guns firing, and you gather information in reflection and refraction under the ocean, and you study these things. And as a geologist, you go through this stuff and try to find little pockets of oil. They had invested all this money to take all of that information and create slicing and diceable 3D models of everything there. You could draw a line through there and you'd get a cross section. You could pick it up and take it apart, you could spin it. And this was a really long time ago. Like I said, they spent tens of millions of dollars. There were 4 workstations. Each workstation was $2 million, right? And they were used all day long because they were finding oil all over the world using these tools. And anyway, part of what I mean, there are other really cool projects I can think of, some in environmental and things like that, but what strikes me about it is all of that crazy stuff that I just talked about, of course, can now be done with technology, open source technology, and Hana, and all sorts of things that we have pretty easy access to. And so I guess what I would say is think big, right? Like in terms of any project that you're thinking about from an immersive point of view, don't don't sell it short, because I never heard anyone ever complain about the amount of money that Chevron spent on they're called Chevis systems. They paid for themselves in the first few months of operation. So think big.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, should we move on to the next question? So if now that we've grounded the audience in the projects that you have done, unless, Aaron, did you want to add a project?
No, I just ended up with the mic.
So yeah, I go with the flow here.
Yeah.
If you could dream, how would you use immersive technology? And if you could tie it back to our business and think about how can SAP leverage immersive technology, all constraints taken aside for a moment. Aaron, why don't you start?
Yeah, I have the mic. So, to me, the immersive part is, and how really it ties into SAP, is that we are not, we have these great designers and we're building out the UIs and stuff, but, still our bread and butter is on the back end and is processing that data. What we need is easy ways to capture that data or to process it and then make sense of it afterwards. And so that's, to me, is
easy way to access the data.
Right, and to get it, because what's happening now, what's the difference between most of the stuff you've ever heard about, really, as David just said, with this 3D rendering of stuff. What's different is the price point. Like when I was product management for IoT, what I would tell people is, like, on an assembly line, you had this arm that moved, and if it broke down, your floor stopped. So therefore, you're willing to spend a lot of money to make sure to do predictive maintenance on it. But that machine next to it that was $10,000, you're not going to spend $10,000 to keep it up. You'll just buy another one. Now, for $100, you can keep that up. And then now for sensors that half of you are wearing, or definitely everybody has them on their pockets or is looking at them right now, that sensor right there has so much information on you. How can that process? How can that be used to help you to make your life better or easier, or to actually just move through the world without having to think about that technology? And that's, I think, where the world is headed. That's where SAP is headed, to process that and to build out that future.
Great. So if you could dream, Manfred, how would you use this technology?
Yeah. I think the price point thing and the ease of use of things is imminent. I think if I could dream, I would dream some augmented reality glasses that are not really more weight than my usual glasses or so, but could augment all my field of view. And with this, I think then we have, or would have, the means to actually put all the information of the world into the line of sight. The internet brought accessibility to so much communication. Wikipedia brought all the accessibility of all the information at once, but you still need some kind of device. And if I could use this richness of information augmented into my site, I think this is the very next step, and it's actually necessary. It's, if you look at how fast technology is going forward, not necessarily only in the IT field, but in others, you need to educate so many people to make machines work again. Like today, I think there's already discussion on should you really learn into your brain tables and information something, or would you just look it up? So, and this would be the next step. So you could get so much support actually in doing your work without actually having to learn how this works, because at some point in time you have no chance to learn it, because once you learn something, the next thing is there.
Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just a little bit, because expanding upon both the points that were made, I think the concept of context-aware, context-based interface. As Manfred was talking, I was thinking about my glasses filled with the information that I need, but then I also thought instantly I'd have information I don't need. and it would be on my glasses, right? And that would annoy me. The glasses would come off, right? But I do think that's
you
a
need
cool
smarter
vision.
glasses?
Yeah, I need even smarter glasses. I need glasses that give me context. But also building off the same concept, the idea that, you know, I don't need to learn every detail about something, that there's a little eye with a circle around it somewhere floating in space that I somehow interact with when I'm doing a particular job. And that information that I need knows it is a set of things that are likely to be relevant to whatever I'm doing. So if I'm walking by and I'm checking a machine, like, you know, to see if it needs to be repaired, then I get all the stats about the last time it was repaired, machines like this machine, how long mean time between failure. You know, I could also do this on the consumer side, but on the enterprise side, that kind of thing. And then the second I turn the other way, I see, you know, the names of the people on the floor, right? That's still dreaming, I think. But natural language processing, big data, I mean, these are things that I think are coming, and we need to start thinking about how do we make that happen? How do we shrink down the amount of data to be context relevant?
Amol, anything? No. Yeah, for me, you know, how can we make this technology better versions of ourselves? You know, help us, and anything that does that would be great. How are we doing on time? How much more time?
We're still good. We
We're
have
still good.
8 more minutes and then maybe 5 minutes for
For Q&A. So let's keep it like quick. Challenges. I think you've mentioned some challenges already, but maybe a quick sentence on challenges that you foresee, or the biggest challenge that you foresee.
I mean, for me overall, for IoT, is security is the first one.
Oh.
How do you design that into it, and how do you keep that thing? So that is one of our, especially being the company that we are, we run everybody's back ends, from nuclear power plants to utilities to banking, to all that stuff that we proudly show everywhere. That has to be secure, and IoT is just you're introducing thousands of devices that now can be hacked. So you just need to be able to think about that, and that has to be designed into the architecture from day one, which is pretty much what we do, which is drives all of us developers nuts, because we just want it, but we know in our hearts of hearts that yes, we have to do it, so we want to do it that way.
Great point. Biggest challenge that you foresee for AR/VR?
I think there are 3 categories of challenges. I'll talk more about VR since I have some experience with that. So I see 3 challenges. The first one would be the human aspect of it. The second is the technical, and the third one is the content creation. I think the human aspect, I'm sure a lot of people here have tried VR headsets, and a lot of people have felt dizziness or that sense of imbalance. So I think we are still at that point where we haven't figured out a way where we can tackle this issue. Right now we are using phones for Google Cardboards and Gear VR, but if you look at those amazing VR headsets like HIVE and the other ones, they are still tied to the computer, so they are still dependent on the processing power of the computer. You cannot go away from the computer. So I think that is still a challenge. From the human aspect, again, a few psychologists believe that immersion into these VR worlds can affect the user psychologically. They feel that if a user is exposed to violent situations, maybe the user can get desensitized. But that's just what they say. I do not know. Again, the third one is the content creation. It still takes a lot of time to build content for VR. With computer graphics, yes, you have the power of computers, but if you want to build something that is live, like a live video, if you want to shoot, there still aren't cameras out there that consumer can use. Like recently I was trying out the Ricoh Theta S, that's a 360 camera. A lot of people can buy it. It's around like $100 or so, but the quality there is terrible. Really good, but the 4K is stretched across the 360 sphere, so there is loss of quality there. And most of the cameras, so there are these companies fighting with each other saying, hey, my camera is best, my camera is best, and there are like people are using 6 GoPros together, but like who here can really afford 6 GoPros? Yeah. So in Samsung, when we were working on this project, we bought the Kodak SP360 4K camera, and that was around like $900. And what happened was 2 days after that, Samsung announced the Gear 360 camera, which had almost the same quality, and it was $300. So there are these these equipments that are still going to. So there's not one equipment that people can say, hey, this solves all our problems. So I think that's still a challenge, and storytelling. One thing I've realized from my experience is storytelling is really difficult in VR. You really need to get the attention of the user. Again, we need to find out ways where the user can interact with the virtual world. Like I was talking about my professor Jesse Shell, and he came up with this game that won many awards. And they were tackling about, okay, you have this VR headset and you're trying to interact with the VR world, but right now, how are you doing it? Some do just by focus. Say like you're focusing on one target point, and you focus there for 5 seconds, you move on to the next stage. But there should be ways where you can reach out to the VR world, and they tried this method where you had a mouse, and they said we are used to the mouse interaction, but how is it trying to the VR world? They said it would never work, but they just tried it, and the thing is, it gives the user a sense that he's reaching out in the VR world, and that worked out pretty well. So I think, but still people are using these haptical sensors, where the HIVE, I think the latest one, right? Yeah. So they have the VR headset, but they also have these haptical sensors, and I think we are still not there yet. So these are some of the challenges, and sometime in the future maybe we'll solve it.
Great. So if you guys are ever experimenting with that, you need advice, you know who to go to. So Manfred, any challenges that come to mind?
I think the main things were actually said already. It's about hardware. You really have this. You have this very narrow field of perception, or you see it with the HoloLens, and you just have a small area that you really have overlaid with the holograms and things. Once this covers your whole field of sight, I think things are going to be more natural, more easy to use, and at the moment we need computers connected to more or less just glasses, and I think you see with the HoloLens that this is going away. They put the whole computer into the glasses, and I think the next step will be that this is even more sleek, lighter.
Great.
So, and then maybe for the question what the user intent actually is, maybe we need some brain reading or something.
Yes, mind reading.
Mind reading. Audience members, do you have a question for our experts here? Okay.
What challenges do you see getting public to start adopting and more open towards VR and AR?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, good.
To get the general public to do it is quite simply to tone it down from like on your head. I mean, one of the classic is just is Google Glass, for example, because that you can put it on was relatively small. That hit such a backlash. And the other is that does anybody in here think that? Do you guys think that was a success or a failure? Google Glass.
There was a success in just getting people started.
No, and that's exactly right. Because I asked my wife, I'm like, Google Glass living here in Silicon Valley was blasted. No, it's a total failure. It's like, no, actually, pretty much everybody up here, if it wasn't for Google Glass, we wouldn't be in AR, VR. But that's the thing, you need to take it from that. So as we keep talking about, it's a pair of glasses, it's contact lens, it's something that it's out of. So I'm talking to you. I mean, right now I have a microphone.
So that is, but it would be better if I was talking to you like this, right? And we just start having a conversation. And that's what we have to do. We have to kind of mimic our normal interactions. And it would be even better now if you're across the world and I'm having this conversation with you like this. That's how you're going to get it.
But it's going to be a very slow, adoptive thing. To the point that, I mean, we all have these cell phones. Do you guys remember not having your cell phone? I mean, I do, but like I now have kids and it's like, oh yeah, I'd be in so much trouble because I would be in the back of the class texting or doing something, but I didn't do that because they weren't invented yet. So anyways, but that's...
Great analogy.
Yeah, I think that in terms of getting the public to adopt these kinds of technologies, the biggest issue, and it comes off of the Google Glass fiasco / success, because from a technology perspective it was a success, from a business perspective it was a ridiculous failure. And it was the creepiness factor, right? And that means actually designing into the devices and into the systems that are running on the devices ways to make an individual feel like their privacy is being maintained, both by the product itself, right? So, I mean, I use the example of I look around and I see everybody's names, but do you really want me to see all your names if we're walking around a mall, right? That's probably not the right thing. So somehow that, again, context, I can't think of a better word for it, you know, being able to build into systems to make them less creepy is really what it comes down to. And you know, I do think that there has to be an acknowledgement that people consume information in different ways, right? I may be okay, I wear glasses, I may be okay with seeing the information in my peripheral vision, right? Like in my glasses. You may not be that kind of person. So what is your equivalent to that kind of information? Should it be on your watch? Should it be, you know, and I'm much more optimistic about AR, augmented reality, than I am about VR in terms of adoption by the public and, frankly, enterprise adoption in the short to mid-term.
Yeah. Okay, I see one more question back there. Yeah, you, the red shirt. Yeah.
I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, I remember an interview of Mark Zuckerberg saying that they were doing some research about how to read people's emotions. So they were trying to build a device or something to get to the point where they won't tell if the person is angry, is happy, is starving. So I would like to know if today there's anything that's coming in that field. And because I do believe that it will have a huge impact on VR. For example, you were stating that if you have glasses and you have information that you don't care about, that device will actually feel that you're angry about that information, and then just automatically won't show it to you. But I think you start doing, then it will automatically show you that, hey, there's a restaurant there, I know that you like that kind of thing. So I would like to know if today there's like anything in like coming.
So I'm horrible with company names, I have to look them back up again, but I can tell you that there have been a number of startups in the last 2 years that we've come across tackling aspects of that, whether it's micro responses, facial responses, and things like that to try to gauge emotion. There are kiosks and things like that you walk by, and it'll do a decent job of, are you anxious, are you happy, you know, that kind of thing. So there's definitely been a lot of progress in that. I would say one of the interesting local startups was one in the autonomous vehicle and in the vehicle technology area, where they have the camera on you as you drive, and they try to judge, you know, are you in distress, are you paying attention? Maybe you're falling asleep at the wheel, and it's a simple check. I mean, that's a major response, right? If I close my eyes while I'm driving, then that's obviously a huge danger. It's easy to detect, is what I'm saying. But the real, I think the real progress is made when you shrink down the scope of what you're trying to predict from that facial image processing, right? The car thing works because falling asleep at the wheel is easy to detect. Being angry at the wheel is harder to detect, but again, you can do it because you're not moving all over the place, you're looking forward. So that's, I think we're getting there, but I think we're still pretty far away. But there are a number of companies working on it.
I've seen a use case for autistic children to help them read emotions, but I haven't seen it in widespread use. So we are kind of out of time. You can definitely talk to David after. If you could leave the audience with one word of advice on why, as SAP employees, they should care about VR, Yeah, they go back to the desk. Why should they care?
Glad I get to go first. I get an easy one. So actually, why you should care is because our customers care. Our customers care already. I've talked to folks in mining companies who tried and dismissed Google Glass. You know, they're like, I don't want to send mining data up to Google, so it's out. But we know from safety and security and information that we want to do it. SAP, you have anything? And it's like, yeah, we're doing some stuff. Our customers are already there. I had a big Russian mining company, well, I have 2 mining companies, but anyway, a big Russian company come through, and we did not expect them to be looking at the high end of innovation, VR, AR, that kind of thing. Probably the third question I got after the basic robotics stuff was, what about drones to detect changes in the field, you know, through image processing? I'm like, okay, why are you coming to SAP thinking this? Fortunately, I think we are doing stuff, but that's why you should care. They care, and they're doing stuff.
So yeah, why should you care is a lot of that is exactly. Yeah,
I think it's easier. I know. I totally agree.
Is how all of this stuff is changing in that as programmers, especially, you think of like zeros and ones moving around, or you just don't think that it actually interacts. You kind of forget that. You know, banking, money goes from one virtual thing, you know, from one server to another. It's not like you put down an actual physical bill anymore. It's all that. But what's happening now is as everything's going, we need to actually start thinking about how these things interact with the world. I mean, the simplest one is air conditioning in this room. It starts getting a little warmer up here, mostly probably because I'm talking and I'm nervous. But it would be nice if this part of the room got a little cooler. Or this beautiful thing, as you notice, the clouds have come up. But what should happen is all these lights should get brighter and dimmer as that happens. And it should be automatic, so that way the same luminescence happens all around. And that is both a design question, both to even think of it and to design how that would interact. And then it's a programming part to to actually implement that. So that's why it is SAP. And then if you could actually do it, I mean, like one of the things that more and more I've ever thought of this lighting example, it bugs me so much that the lights next to windows are the same brightness as the ones that are in the center. And if you could save 1-2% of an energy cost at this facility, can you imagine how many tons of carbon CO2 that is? How much everything else? And so now we're actually changing the world by actually making our lives either the same or better, you know, because it's just the same. And that's not as simple as it is, but it is as simple. It's taking that frustration or that tiny little thing. Like I just had my Android phone, I just replaced it, but now I have to. All my apps came over, so that's a first. Because I've had Android phones since the very beginning, but now I'm going through and having to re-register and re-turn it on, re-log into Facebook, redo all that, and that's the type of thing is eliminating those type of things. So everything is kind of I just got a phone, just put everything else over there. Now ideally, but get rid of all the crap that I haven't gotten rid of. That's the next one.
Great. Okay, so very quickly, why should the audience care? Amol?
Okay, just one sentence.
Yes.
As I said, like, we should be at the forefront
Yes.
Rather than catching up. Otherwise, we'll end up acquiring companies in the future.
All right. Okay, business strategy reasons. Next.
You remember our 2 or our 3 user interface? Maybe you don't like to.
You've never seen it in books?
We have Fury and things today. Why are we doing this? To make users' lives easier. So that's just the next step to, for certain areas, use AR/VR user interfaces.
Great. So with that, I want to give our audience, our panelists